you all. Okay, hopefully you are fine and doing well. Our objectives and okay, I hope you're seeing my screen right now. So reproductive strategies in plants and animals. Okay, for this week we'll just focus on the plants muna, and then next week we'll be continuing our discussion for animals. So our objectives for today is to differentiate between asexual and sexual reproduction, describe the structure and reproductive cycle of a flowering plant using diagrams, and discuss the different modes of animal reproduction. So continuation na to for next week. So the topic outline for today will be mitosis and meiosis. So we'll have a short recap for that since that is related to the sexual reproduction or reproduction, sexual and sexual reproduction in plants, sexual and sexual in animals, and stages of development of fetus. So for a short recap of mitosis, so you already know that mitosis is ito siya, one division resulting in two daughter cells, while in meiosis, there will be two divisions. Yun yung meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, resulting in four daughter cells. So we have also for mitosis, number of chromosomes is unchanged. So it stays the same for mitosis, while the number of chromosomes is half for or haploid for meiosis. So mo nang later on it will be developed or new cell will be developed to for sex cells. So homologous chromosomes do not associate in pairs, while homologous chromosomes associate in pairs that are coming from the parent cells or the sex cells from parents. So crossing over does not occur. And then for meiosis, there will be crossing over. That is why there will be variation of genetic materials that are produced after meiosis process. So yan yung sa dulo. Daughter cells are genetically identical, while in meiosis there will be different or variation for the products of meiosis. So for that, okay, so we'll move on with plant reproduction. So before I go with my discussion for plant reproduction, let me share to you a short video so you can see this one and then you learn something. So let me stop my share screen.
Hello happy friends! Welcome to new happy learning video. Plants, like all living things, need to reproduce to perpetuate their species, to survive through time. Today, we're going to get to know plant asexual reproduction. In asexual plant reproduction, flowers don't intervene. There's no need for a gamete or female and male cell. In asexual reproduction, there's only one parent. So the new plants will be genetically identical to this. New plants can originate from a single cell, tissue, an organ, or a part of a mother plant. There are two types of asexual reproduction: vegetative reproduction and reproduction without seeds. Let's get to know them. If you want to get to know vegetative reproduction, what root vegetables, bulbs, stolons and rhizomes are, if you want to learn how plants without seeds reproduce, what mosses and ferns are,
Which are part of a type of reproduction for vegetative reproduction. So what are these? What are rhizomes? What are these tubers? What are these runners, bulbs, and underground roots? So we have for runners. So if you can see the picture, these are horizontal stems that are produced. New roots shoot develop at the node or stolon. So if you can see, some examples. So one good example is um, strawberry plant. So meron siyang stolon, and from that, uh, horizontal stems are produced from each of the stem. So merong ma-produce na mga new roots or shoots, and it develops a new node. So from that particular area, maka-produce siya og another plant part, which is just like what I've said, pag sabihing asexual reproduction, it can produce identical species the same with the parent. So meaning it doesn't need any more of the male and the female gametes to produce an organism. So for this runner, so identical siya from its parent. So meaning kining strawberry, okay, these horizontal stems that comes from the strawberry will also produce another strawberry. So ingon ana ang process of asexual reproduction. Only that dili na nim siya kailangan mag ano katong male and female na gametes. So we also have tubers. So for vegetative reproduction, including tubers. So we have underground stem. So eyes are the stem nodes. So from that particular area sa kana na plant, so or the tubers itself, so mag-produce siya og another roots, and then it may develop another plant part. So for example is a potato plant. So we also have rhizomes. So for rhizomes, okay, if you are able to see kana mga ginger, okay, kana. So, if you can see that one, so ang ihang plant part, teka muna. Okay, that particular plant part kay makaproduce siya og another horizontal stem. So, kung tingnan nyo ang, let me have my pointer or pen. So, for this one, ay, hindi siya makita. Highlight. So, just like this one, okay, this is actually the product, 'di ba? Or the rhizome or the ginger. So, it produces its stem, and then the stem continuously um producing another plant part. So, it enables the plant to produce another stem. So, we also have bulbs. So particularly kato gingon katong mga onion. So you just plant the onion, and then it can produce its stem. Okay, compressed underground, you have to put the bulb itself sa underground, and then it may produce another plant part or another plant which is identical to its parent plant. So we also have sexual reproduction. So let me have that correction. Sexual reproduction in plants. So for sexual reproduction in plants, okay, first and foremost, you have to know that in sexual reproduction, okay, the most important parts are the male and the female gametes. So just like humans, kabalo naman mo ana that humans have male and female gametes. So that is used for reproduction, same as for the plants. But only that, okay, the difference is that ito, plant siya. So for plants, so we have sexual reproduction in angiosperms. So we have flower. So flower is a reproductive organ of flowering plant. So okay, how does it undergo sexual reproduction? So we have these different terms for sexual reproduction in plants. We have pollination, cross-pollination, and self-pollination. So when you say pollination, it's the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the flower. So you come up with this anther or stigma. So what are the stigma and anther? So later on, we'll be talking that plant part one by one. So we also have cross-pollination. It's a type of reproduction for in, okay, pollination rather, wherein uh, it transfer pollen grains from one plant to another plant. So meaning we have different plants, and then there will be cross pollination when it transfer pollen grains from the anther of this plant to another plant. So we also have self pollination. So kung self pollination is just okay within that particular same flower or same plant. So meaning ang pollen grains kay uh, through the pollination process, okay, ang transfer of pollens will be within that same flower. So, I guess you are able to learn this one from your elementary years. So, paano lang ni siya kanang recap of past lessons. So, kung wala mo nagiani, grabe na jud. So we have fertilization. So fertilization is the union of sex cells. So with the process of pollination, okay, we can come up with fertilization in plants. So it's the union of sex cells or the gametes of the plant parts. So we have also fertilization, term fertilization for the union of sex cells for animals and humans. Okay, for our plants, so morning mahitabo. So pollen tube grows on the style into the ovary for sperm to fertilize eggs. So meaning, with the process of pollination, okay, it will enable the process also of fertilization. So it happens when the pollen tube grows on the style into the ovary for sperm to fertilize eggs. So you can see here the flower part, flower part of a plant. So in a flower, okay, we have here the sepals, the petals, the stamen rather, anther, filament, and pollen grain. So let's talk about it one by one. So we have sepals. Okay, sepals are collectively called the calyx, protect the flower bud before it opens. So we have, okay, let me have my pointer for a highlight. So we have the sepals. Okay, so this is the sepal. So if you can see this one, okay, originally, pag hindi pa masyadong ang plant, the flower I mean, kung dili pa kuan ang flower kanang nag-grow, nag-develop pa siya, it's somehow close and then it develops later on mo na mag-produce na daw din siya og petals. So when it is still close, kay makita jud ninyo ang sepals or first and foremost. And then we have the petals. So okay, collectively called the corolla, the petals often attract a particular pollinator. So uh one significant function of petals is to attract the pollinators. So, unsa man yung mga pollinators? Pollinators are the insects that can actually help in pollination process. So, sila ang mag-transfer of og mga pollen grains from the from the plants or the flower to another flower, or in the process of pollination sila ang atong sila ang um, they carries the pollen grains. So, as they are attracted with the color of the flowers or the petals, so diha na pod ang ilang process or diha na pod ang part na makatabang sila for the fertilization process. So we also have stamen. It's the male part of the plant or the flower rather. So stamen is okay, if you can see here as ang stamen. So stamen, it contains the anther and the filament. So filament is the tube-like or the stalk, and the anther is the stalk-like or container. So pollen grains develop from microspores produced in the anther. So meaning this anther kining male part of the plant containing the anther and the filament is what you call as the stamen. And then this stamen, kining anther part of the stamen containing the pollen grains. So once the microspores are taken by the pollinators, so that will now be pwede na mahitabo ang pollination process. But okay, let's not be blinded with the female part. So kailangan po ng female part. So the carpel, okay, female part contains the stigma, the style, and the ovary. So stigma is the enlarged stick and knob or the petals corolla. And then the style is the slender stalk, and then the ovary, an enlarged base that encloses one or more ovules. Okay, ovule become the seed and it becomes the fruit. In the process of pollination, mo na siya ang ma-produce, and fruit is the instrumental in the distribution of seed. So, okay, just like the male part. So, let me tell you, this is now the, okay, let's have the highlighter. So, mo na siya ang female part of the flower. So, okay, if you can see my highlighted portion, so stigma containing the style, the pollen tube, or the carpel i- as a whole. So they contain, so stigma, and then the style, then the pollen tube, and then it's the ovary and the ovule and the lower portion of the pollen tube. So kanina I'm showing you a video regarding sexual reproduction. So right now, let me have the fertilization process
In
of
our
in
previous
plants.
video, we have taken a look at the process of pollination. Can you recall the process? This process occurs in flowering plants. The pollen grains are transferred from the anther to the stigma of the same or a different flower. We have also taken a look at the different types of pollination: self-pollination and cross-pollination. Now let us see what exactly happens after pollination. The next and the most important step is that of fertilization. Now, what's this process exactly? Fertilization is simply the process of fusion of the male and the female gametes to give rise to a new embryo. Before understanding this process, let's understand these terms which are new for us. Firstly, let's get to know what gametes are. Gametes are the specialized cells which serve the function of reproduction. We find these cells in organisms that carry out sexual reproduction. For now, we only need to know that gametes will be different in the males and the females. And sexual reproduction is where the gametes from both male and female individuals will unite to give a zygote. What is a zygote? It is a single cell structure formed from the fusion of male and female gametes. This single cell further develops into an embryo. And what's an embryo, by the way? It is the structure that will further develop into an organism. So gametes are the special cells called sex cells present in organisms that participate in sexual reproduction. Fusion of the two gametes, one from a male and the other from a female, will give rise to a zygote which will further develop into an embryo. This embryo grows and develops into a baby organism. These were a few terms that we had to know. Now let's get back to the fertilization process in plants. Let's define it again. It is the process of fusion of male and female gametes to give rise to a new embryo. After pollination is successfully accomplished, how does fertilization occur in plants? Let us zoom into the structure of a typical pistil, the female reproductive part of the flower. The pollination process has caused the pollen grains to safely land on the stigma, which is seen here. For fertilization to occur, the male gametes need to reach this lower part of the pistil called the ovary, where the female gamete awaits it. The female gamete or the egg cell is present inside the ovary. To form a zygote, the female gamete has to fuse with the male gamete. Now, how will this happen? It is made possible by a structure called the pollen tube. This tube is formed from the pollen grain itself. The tube travels down the complete style and ultimately reaches the ovary. The tube carries along the male gamete that is safely taken to the ovary. Now, once the gamete reaches the ovary, the two fuse, giving rise to the formation of a single cell. This is the zygote, and the zygote will further develop into an embryo. Zygote formation in plants marks the completion of fertilization. What happens next? What will happen once fertilization is successfully accomplished? After fertilization, the ovary develops into a fruit and ovules develop into seeds. What's an ovule? An ovule is a part of the female reproductive system that will develop into seeds after fertilization. This is all we need to know for now. We will get into the structure and functions of ovule in higher grades. So getting back, the ovule forms the seeds, which is nothing but a structure containing the embryo inside it. The baby plant. A baby plant that is yet to develop means it needs utmost protection. That is why we have the seed. A seed remains safe and guarded by a seed coat which protects the inner delicate parts and the embryo during unfavorable conditions. So how does a plant grow from this single seed? When seeds are sown in the soil and when they achieve favorable conditions, they germinate to give us a new plantlet. Now the next question is, how do seeds get rooted every time in the soil? Let us get to know the concept of seed dispersal and a few more interesting concepts in the next video.
A new organism will be formed through the sexual reproduction in plants through fertilization in plants. So that's the part wherein nanatay ma-form na other organism. So from that information that we have that I have shown you with plants, okay, do not forget to comment below or comment on our Edmodo page if you still have want to have further discussions with that. So for next meeting, okay, please study the fertilization process or sexual reproduction in animals. So that ends our discussion for the day.